Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lesser Saints Discord, your one and only pre-show to the YouTube Saints. Live every week on Sunday before the YouTube Saints at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host, Rimshi. No, I'm your host, Davis. Joined by Rimshi.
Stealing my jokes and now you're stealing my name?
Yeah. Gotta do it. And just like we said after the midweek show, I am both shirtless and pantsless, just for your enjoyment.
I've been shirtless and pantless all day. That's actually a lie. I was out with family, so I definitely had pants on. But I am now no longer wearing pants.
Alright, that works. Any new Discord news?
Nothing comes to mind beyond the new bot we have, Dragon. Welcome them. Welcome to the bot, I suppose. Have fun with it. There's not much really to say about that bot. We're working on getting the functionality of it up and running right now. So there are certain things that you can do with it that can't be done with it at the moment that we just need to access, and we need the assistance of either Nick or Jeff. Because whoever the owner of the server is, I'm pretty sure that's Jeff though.
That'd be Jeff. Jeff, I know you're watching. Get on that.
Yeah, Jeff needs to hop on that. Get with Waffle to set that all up.
Yeah.
Beyond that, nothing really new with the server. A reminder that links to like Philip DeFranco, those need to go down in cross promote or what's the other one? Cross promote or miscellaneous Rex.
Unless it applies to conversation.
Yeah, outside of conversation, it needs to go down there. Within conversation, it can go in the chat that it's related to. And that goes for not just Philip DeFranco, but just about any link. It either goes in, if it's a recommendation or something like that, hey, I want people to watch this, put it down in the sharing category under either miscellaneous recommendations or cross-promote.
Another thing, if you're going to be posting in the voice text channel, make sure you're in voice chat, because there's a lot of context that gets lost.
Yeah.
You're not actually hearing what people are saying. Alright. Yeah, that's it for updates.
Yeah, but relatively quick and painless. Let's move on to the news.
This week,
This
we learned...
This week we actually had to select down from what we had.
Yeah.
We don't usually
have
have
ever,
it.
we actually found articles beforehand.
Well, they kept popping up, like this one. U.S. Senate votes 86-5 allowing medical marijuana for veterans.
Woo! I don't know what our audience thinks about that, but I'm all for it.
As a
And,
veteran myself, I'm all for it. I'm probably not. I probably would not be able to get a medical marijuana license. Well, I probably could actually. I've got arthritis from injuries sustained while on active duty, but
oh, totally love.
yeah, that would totally score us. Score me the ability.
But it also does things for PTSD,
Oh
which
yeah,
a lot of us have. So,
yeah, it
all
does good stuff.
right, it's the good stuff does good stuff.
Yeah. the The full United States Senate has passed a bill that allows physic, gah, physicians at the Department of Veterans Affairs (VA) to recommend medical marijuana to veterans living in states where the medicine is legal. The Senate voted 86-5 on a spending bill that includes a provision to finally allow veterans living in medical marijuana states to receive recommendations from their physicians at the VA. The measure states that none of the funds appropriated or otherwise made available to the Department of Veterans Affairs in this act may be used in a manner that would 1. Interfere with the ability of a veteran to participate in a medical marijuana program approved by a state, 2. Deny any services from the Department of a veteran from the department to a veteran who is participating in such a program, or 3. Limit or interfere with the ability of a healthcare provider of the department to make appropriate recommendations, fill out forms, or take steps to comply with such a program. The House of Representatives must now approve the measure before it can be sent to President Trump for consideration. I am in full support of this actually passing, but yeah.
Yeah, with I don't like that Sessions is in the ear of Trump.
Yeah, but at the same time, how many times has Trump told Sessions to just sit down?
Yeah, that's true. I hope Trump goes the route of not even just veterans' rights, but states' rights in general.
Yeah.
I think that's been that route for this. Yeah, and that the allowing vets to get medical marijuana will allow a lot of vets to get off of a smorgasbord of pills and just be able to have an edible,
Yeah. And
smoke a
Y2K,
little bit.
Y2K, yes, though it was active duty injuries. All of them happened while I was at work too, so it's not like, oh, I got into a crash. I've crashed on a bicycle while on my free time, and because it was active duty, it's covered. No, I broke my hand while moving a toolbox in the squadron. I shattered my heel falling off the wing of an aircraft. I have injuries.
I forgot about that one. Dum dum.
Yeah, well, at least I had the wherewithal to not land on my head.
Yeah, I guess that works. Uh, yeah, that one's pretty short. But also, that last one, ended with Trump. This one begins with Trump. Police seize orange ecstasy pills shaped like President Donald Trump. That's right. That's right.
That's right, people. I also do have arthritis from beating off, but I never claimed that like an idiot. Y2K.
Ah, smart.
They
Smart.
usually call it tennis elbow, though.
Indiana State Police seized half a batch of orange ecstasy pills shaped like President Donald Trump while carrying out drug busts in the northern part of the state. Authorities described the drugs as Trump-shaped ecstasy pills in a Friday press release, which detailed 129 arrests, according to the Associated Press. The pills are stamped with the press of the commander-in-chief and have the words "Great Again" written on the back. A reference to Trump's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Are you going to make the joke or am I?
No, this is all about making ecstasy great again. Mega.
Yeah.
Oh, that it. Yuck, no. Drug code named Cheeto Dust.
Ooh, nice. Oh. The news release did not offer specifics about the drug bust or say how many pills were seized during the operation. State and city police spent 6 days in June conducting traffic stops and were able to seize parcels of cocaine and LSD, the AP reported. German authorities also seized thousands of the same pills. Man, made it all the way to Germany.
God damn.
All right. Must be good shit, because Germany has the best shit. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Seized thousands of the same pills during a traffic stop on the A30 highway back in August 2017, according to Fox News. Short article again, but yeah. God damn.
Oh, Trump. You are now a drug.
Trump ecstasy out there.
Now Trump has gone from being a fearless leader to being someone's high, someone's drug, someone's fix.
Well, with how much the mainstream media pays attention to him, he seems like a drug to them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't disagree. And shall we move on to another article?
Yeah.
This one's pretty good. Police pair high on bath salts, fire gun at fireflies, mistaking them for alien lasers.
These are my people. Take it away.
Well, first off, let's just take a moment to look at this pair. They don't. You think maybe they, you know what? I got nothing. They just look dumb as shit.
Is she doing duck lips in her...
Yeah!
Is she doing duck lips in her mugshot?
Yeah! Is it just me, or are they dumb as shit?
Put this on... I'm gonna put this on my Instagram.
People are stupid.
It's not even Florida this time, is it?
We'll find out.
No,
it's not. It's PA. Okay, let's get into this. Clinton County, PA, WBRE. Suspected bath salts, green lasers, and fireflies. State police say they're all part of this story that put 2 people in jail. Troopers say 30-year-old Jesse Shields and 22-year-old Catherine McCloskey were high on suspected bath salts during a bizarre chain of events early Saturday morning. According to investigators, the pair from Clinton County had a bad trip and thought that fireflies were green lasers coming from aliens who were after them. State police say Shields fired his revolver into the air to scare away the lasers and then ran to a nearby home on Long Run Road in Lamar Township, where he asked the homeowner to call the cops because something was chasing them. While the person was on the phone with 911, Shields allegedly broke a window before he left the home and then went to the next door neighbor's house and broke another window there. State police say the owner of that home was able to get the gun from Shields, who asked if he could take a shower to get the goo off his body because it was burning his skin. Shields and McCloskey are both facing a slew of charges, including burglary, criminal trespassing, public intoxication, and disorderly conduct. They were both unable to post bail and taken to the Clinton County prison.
Bravo. Y2KNW has a great move coming.
You would not believe your eyes.
When I shot at fireflies, high off my ass on bath salts.
Help! Aliens are after me! Breaks all the windows. That's great, Mecha. Wow, that took up the span of only 2 stories we would normally do.
Yep.
Holy shit.
God damn.
Drugs are bad, people. Do them responsibly.
No.
Don't.
Oh wait, no, hold on. We were just talking about how people should smoke weed for their health issues, and then now we're telling people not to do drugs. Come on, that's hypocritical, isn't she?
I didn't say don't do drugs. I said drugs are bad. Or no, drugs can be bad for your health. Do them responsibly.
Just don't do bath salts.
Bath salts are, yeah, no, that's just a bad idea in general.
Yeah, it's how you start chewing off people's faces.
Yeah, because bath salts can turn you into a zombie, folks. I don't know if you remember that one, but bath salts can turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, there's a few drugs out there like that. It's fucking disturbing.
Oh yeah. And let's move on to the next one. This one is not directly drug related. It's about a good doggo. Hero SAS dog saves the lives of 6 elite soldiers in Syria by ripping out the jihadis' throats while taking down 3 terrorists who ambushed British patrol. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, no, that's fine.
I didn't know we were pulling this one up, so.
We were.
Shit.
How'd you forget?
Because we went through the count of, I said 5 articles, you said, yeah, 5. Turns out there's 6. So.
Is there 6? Oh no, there are 6. Holy shit.
Yeah. Wait to throw me under the bus. All right.
I'm not throwing you under the bus.
So, yeah, it's hard to throw one under one. So, anyways, good dog. Good dog.
Oh wait, what? Why am I not showing the right one? Is this? Yeah, that.
S. Wait.
Oh, hold on. I made a mistake here. Give me a second, and we will have the correct one. There we go.
So let me. While he's
no, it's all fixed now. It's all fixed.
A story about how okay. I was gonna tell the story about how a buddy of mine got trolled by a 4chan user in real life. All right. So, an SAS team was saved after a brave military dog fought off a jihadi who attacked a patrol in northern Syria. The unnamed Belgian Malinois, a fierce breed of sheepdog known for its bravery, had been out on a routine patrol with a team of 6 crack soldiers from the SAS. They had just entered a small village in a convoy of armored vehicles when they got out to continue the rich. What the fuck is that word?
When they got out to continue the wreck on foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
But soon after they left the safety of the convoy, they were attacked on all sides by waiting jihadis in what was described as a 360-degree ambush. I wish they had a 360-degree camera. You know, it takes 2 fisheye lenses, and it compiles the image, and then you can see 360 degrees. Okay. The SAS men returned fire, but the jihadis began closing in and tried to outflank them. The animal was said to have leapt to the defense of the struggling British soldiers, tearing the throat of...
one gunman.
Yeah, typos. I fucking hate seeing typos in news articles. Throat of one gunman who was firing at the patrol. It then turned on 2 other jihadis, leaving them seriously injured before the other 6 ambushers all fled. The source at the Daily Star, the SAS found themselves in a 360-degree ambush. See, if you have a 360-degree camera, you can see more shit. The initiative was with the terrorists, and the only hope for the British was to try and make a run for it. The handler removed the dog's muzzle and directed him into a building where they were coming under fire. They could hear screaming, shouting before the firing from the house stopped. Jesus. Alright, article's almost done. When the team entered the building, they saw the dog standing over a dead gunman. The incident was said to have taken place 2 months ago, but details of the dog's bravery can only be made public now for security reasons. His throat had been torn out and he had bled to death, the source continued. There was also a lump of human flesh in one corner and a series of blood trails leading out the back of the building. The dog was virtually uninjured. The SAS were in a defensive position and eventually break away from the battle without taking any casualties. The SAS commander in charge of patrol credited the dog in the lives of all 6 of the men. Good doggo.
Good doggo.
Good doggo. Doggo good.
I like what Y2K said. Jihadi. Dogs are haram. Doggo. Jihadis are tasty. I don't know why he's southern. not
Yeah.
southerner, but like close to the border, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good little bork num num. That this little
Good
fur
bork
missile
bork.
that went in there. What?
Good bork.
Good bork. He got his nom noms. A little fur missile ran in there and did his shit. He deserves a medal.
I wonder if Doggo thinks jihadis taste like bacon. God damn, Y2K.
They're not allowed to eat bacon. They can't taste like bacon.
Should we read the next one or bring Bar in to potentially put his 2 cents on this?
Are we doing talking about
Poverty?
California?
Yeah, poverty.
Yeah.
California.
Well,
I'll start reading it. You pull. You see if you can get Bar in.
yeah. That works.
All right. Number 1 in poverty, California isn't our most progressive state. It's our most racist one. Shocking. A first-seeking missile. I like it. Everyone thinks California is our most progressive state. And why not? It imposes the highest tax on the richest 1%. Is that Bar?
Hello.
All right.
Bar is here.
In that case,
Hi,
I
everyone.
will
We can talk about how California is calling itself racist right now.
Really?
Yeah, they're done with calling everybody else racist. Now they're calling themselves racist. It's great.
I mean, they ran out of people. You know.
Well, here, let me start over for you, Bar. Here's how it
Thank you
starts.
so much.
Everyone thinks California is our most progressive state. And why not? It imposes the highest tax on the richest 1%. It is aggressively implementing Obamacare. And it is standing up to President Donald Trump on everything from immigration to environment. And yet the Golden State is also number 1 in poverty and inequality in America. How can this be? God damn it, Golden.
Because your policies are garbage and don't actually promote equality.
Right?
And, you know, hypocrisy is a thing.
Yeah.
It's really easy to point your finger at someone else.
How can this be? Around the world, progressive economies like those in Sweden, France, and Germany, which redistribute wealth through high taxes and generous social welfare policies, boast far less poverty and inequality than other nations. What gives? And how does California maintain its reputation as a progressive leader given the reality on the ground? If racism is more than just saying nasty things, if it is, as scholars like James Baldwin, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Michelle Alexander, and countless others have described, embedded into socioeconomic structures, then California isn't just the least progressive state, it's also the most racist. The Real World Elysium. In 2013, science fiction film Elysium, the rich have fled to a luxurious satellite orbiting Earth while the poor toil in dangerous conditions below. Life in California today differs in degrees, but not in kind, from that dystopian vision. Homeless encampments of hundreds of people have cropped up around the state in the last 2 years. Occasionally, they are ravaged by hepatitis A, which killed 20 people last year. In Silicon Valley, 132 people died on the streets in 2016, up from 85 in 2015. In San Diego, 117 people died, up from 56. Last
Damn,
year,
they're doubling the death rates.
Last year, San Diego City workers nearly killed a homeless person after accidentally throwing her and the tent she was sleeping in into the back of a garbage truck. She escaped.
I remember that. I remember that story.
Oh,
She
Jesus.
escaped just seconds before being crushed by the trash compactor.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, inside of comfortable homes perched atop Berkeley Hills,
Hmm.
affluent progressives condemn the cruelty of the Trump administration towards the poor. It's true that workers in California earn 11% more than their counterparts nationally, but that amount is not enough to make up for mortgage payments and rent that are 44% and 37% higher, respectively, than the national average. Whereas 56% of Californians could afford a middle class home in 2012, in the third quarter of 2017, just 28% could.
Jesus Christ.
This matters. Home ownership has been the traditional route for the working class to join the middle class, notes Chapman University demographer Joel Kotkin, who has been ringing the alarm about the crisis for years. One fact says it all. Homeowners have a net worth that is a whopping 36 to 45 times higher than that of renters.
Oh, wow.
For about 40 years, from 1930 to 1970, black families were channeled into renting rooms and denied loans, whereas white families were encouraged to buy homes. After that, Richard Rothstein explains, it was not primarily discrimination, although this still contributed, that kept African Americans out of most white suburbs. It was primarily unaffordability. Environmentalism is used to justify de facto racial segregation in California's housing. Environmental lawsuits are a major reason for longer delays and higher costs of new housing. The core legal structure of the CEQA, notes housing attorney Jennifer Hernandez, protects the existing characteristics of those neighborhoods and thus perpetuates land use practices founded in race and class discrimination.
Hold on. So hold on.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the divides are more based on the rich and the impoverished as opposed to race.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And keep in mind, but what their argument is that it's all based in race because that's where it started. It may not be that way now, but look at it from the historical perspective that these haven't been gotten rid of. They're just affecting different people.
Well, okay, so I can agree that the impoverished black community comes from racism, and there's a lot of cultural things that happened within those communities that it led to more and more poverty within the community, staying in those communities and not getting out.
Self-perpetuating
However,
cycle, if you will.
Yeah. However, this has a lot more to do with your class standing as opposed to your race.
Yeah, it really
at
does.
This point in time.
But what's being said is that while now it's that its origin is racial. When the past is the past, but this stuff is now really affecting people. Anyway, where was I? Practice found on race and class. California's elected officials make serious-sounding pronouncements about the problem, but back them with only symbolic actions. Last September, Governor Jerry Brown signed housing legislation that will raise $250 million per year to subsidize housing, but that's just enough to subsidize 1,824 units annually at a time when 100,000 to 200,000 new units are needed. Is the problem too few progressive policies or too many? Consider, in the name of helping the poor and protecting the environment, California has placed myriad restrictions and fees on building new housing units, driving up their price. Progressive local governments like San Francisco and Santa Monica block even those housing projects that comply with zoning laws progressives had agreed to. And the state progressive environmental law allows duplicative and anonymous lawsuits to block housing projects for often unethical and frivolous reasons. Why haven't lawmakers changed those laws? Why haven't lawmakers changed those laws? Because the progressives residents of Elysium don't want them to. Legislation that would have encouraged more housing density near transport hubs was snuffed out last April, garnering support from less than one-third of legislative committee members. Progressive organizing, lamented Benjamin Ross in the left-wing magazine Dissent, evolves stealthily into a defense of the residential status quo. It is a status quo that Beverly Hills is happy to preserve.
Yeah.
When are you guys gonna have that big earthquake that knocks you off the map?
God, after I move to the new beachfront property.
Good idea. Good idea.
Progressive leaders who daily denounce Republicans as racist have blithely presided over a significant decline in the academic performance of black and Latino 8th graders relative to their counterparts in other states. Today, less than 40% of non-white and non-Asian students meet state education standards.
Hold up. Notice how they also said non-Asian.
Yeah.
This,
Because as soon as the minority does well enough, goes
Yeah.
against the grain of the
Well,
narrative. Therefore,
you know,
there's that whole thing where Harvard is turning away Asian students, and they actually have a higher standard for SAT scores for Asian students to get in because of affirmative action, and they need to have diversity.
Yeah, but
That's a big thing that's going on.
yeah, no. I actually know a little bit about the author. I'll share at the end. The reason is a combination of factors, including lack of funding, lack of accountability, and a high rate of non-English speakers. When the cost of living is taken into account, California spends less on K through 12 education than all but 4 other states. A decade-long reform effort in Washington, D.C. showed that student performance can be improved significantly by rewarding teachers for performance and replacing underperforming teachers. But California has rejected similar reforms. Progressives won't even allow delaying teacher tenure from 2 to 3 years to ensure high-quality teachers.
Oh my God.
What about the state's much ballyhooed criminal justice reform? California did indeed reduce the total number of prisoners by 12% between 2011 and 2015, but that's because it had to. Barbaric overcrowding resulted in a federal court order that the state take action.
Hold on. That's also because. Oh, never mind.
Meanwhile, the amount California spends on prisons actually increased by $500 million thanks to the influence of the state's deeply corrupt prison guard union. As a consequence, California today spends more per prisoner than any other state, $65,000 annually, which happened to be the same amount it costs to send a high school graduate to Stanford University for 1 year. While housing is the main factor behind the high cost of living, California's regressive and unfair taxes contribute significantly to poverty and inequality. While the state has the highest income tax rate for the top tier earners, California also has the nation's highest sales tax, which is famously regressive. Meanwhile, two-thirds of the tax relief from Proposition 13, the 1978 ballot initiative that restricted poverty tax, property tax goes to homeowners with incomes above 120,000 annually.
Jesus.
How do progressive residents of Elysium protect their wealth across the generations? By allowing homeowners to pass along their low property tax rates to their children. California's high energy prices and regulatory burden result in the state having fewer high-paying manufacturing jobs relative to other states. Between 2011 and 2017, California's electricity rates rose an astonishing 5 times more than they did nationally, undermining the ability for the state to compete for manufacturing jobs, which pay $96,711 per year on average, $40,000 more than the state's average non-farm income. Progressive and powerful public employees unions reward themselves with retirement benefits far beyond those of ordinary workers. Over 200,000 DMV workers, building permit employees, and other government workers collect retirement pensions at the age of 55 at all costs, at a cost of 5.4 billion a year. An astonishing 30 times more than was paid out before 2000. Back on Earth, 1/3 of the public have no retirement savings whatsoever. The median retirement savings of the rest is just 111,000. A person would need 2.6 million in savings in order to receive a retirement benefit as large as those received by a California Highway Patrol officer. The greatest fiction of all. The biggest difference between Elysium, the movie, and present-day California is that in the real-world version, Elysium residents believe they are progressive. How do they maintain that fiction, which is more detached from reality than Elysium, the movie? By living in a fantasy world where California is leading the world in saving the environment and fighting racism. But in saving the environment, California progressives increased electricity rates, hurt manufacturing, and allowed carbon emissions to rise, even while they decline in the rest of the U.S. And in vigorously protecting the rights of their low-wage foreign servant class to remain in California while denying everybody, including them, affordable shelter, progressives aren't being generous, they're being selfish. Nobody wants to talk about it, but the truth is that California's liberal immigration laws have been good for the progressives residing in Elysium. They benefit directly from the downward pressure that low-skill immigrants put on the wages for restaurant workers, cleaners, gardeners, and drivers. The outcome of all these supposedly progressive policies is the most racially unequal society in the whole of the United States. After decades of progressives congratulating themselves on their anti-racism, low-wage workers, who are disproportionately people of color, today suffer the brunt of the state's housing, tax, and regulatory policies. What Donald Trump offers Elysium progressives is an external enemy. Trump was an opportunity for the state's politicians and Democrat Party activists to escape their responsibility to seriously address widening inequality in the extreme poverty all around them. Trump gives progressives a way to channel whatever guilt they might have, whether from preventing home building, benefiting from unfair tax and pensions, or depriving Black and Latino students the teacher quality and school funding they need, into a sanctimonious tribal rage against Republican racism. What will it take for a progressive bubble to burst? Another recession, perhaps? California's tax revenues are deeply lopsided towards the income and especially towards the richest 1% whose income is dependent on the fortunes of the stock market. Already, the state's top accounts are predicting a 55 billion shortfall over the next 3 years. And that amount is dwarfed by the much larger $366 billion of debt taxpayers owe in pensions and health care benefits to public employees.
Jesus.
But
Oh,
there will
God.
always be an external enemy upon which progressive residents of Elysium can displace their guilt. As such, if California is ever to live up to its ideals, change must come from within. Not just from within Elysium, but from within the progressive movement itself. And that starts with acknowledging that California's tragic poverty and widening inequality aren't the result of racist policies imposed from without, but rather progressive policies embraced from within. And
Yeah.
I said I would say something about this guy, the author,
Yeah.
Michael Schellenberger. He ran for mayor this year in California as a Democrat.
For mayor?
For mayor, or not mayor, for governor. I
Governor.
stand corrected. For governor as a Democrat.
Yeah, wasn't he on the Rubin Report?
He wasn't on the Rubin Report, if I remember correctly, but I know I could be wrong on that. I know for a fact he was mentioned on the Rubin Report by the what was that? The Republican group that one kid from Washington had started. They were supporting him for governor.
Huh.
I mean, the guy definitely seems to have a very sobering look on the situation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm going to stress, this is a Democrat in California
Yeah.
saying this shit.
Yeah. Well,
It's not just
someone
us,
would know
people.
that-
It's not
yeah.
just us.
well, this is Forbes. This is MSM.
Yeah, but this guy is specifically from California, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not just
And
us.
I totally agree with him. You guys need to fix fucking California.
I
Because
agree.
all your tech companies are moving to Seattle, and it's driving my rent prices up the fucking charts.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about like clueless gentrification phenomena within deep progressive ideology is being, for me, apparently clear when you have a college kid who's been weighted hand and foot all of his life call himself a Marxist and lecture down to a working class man how it's his fault apparently the system is as it is.
Yeah.
There's like a colossal amount of hypocrisy.
I don't know if the annoyance with how much I agree with that statement came through. I'm sure it did. But I don't know how much it did.
I mean, but it's being discussed by people like, oh god, it's Christina Hoff Summers.
Yeah. I thought his use of the Elysium movie
and
was
her-
perfect too.
Yeah, the whole thing of like the ivory tower insulated people.
Yeah.
Just don't want to look at the problem as they benefit from it to keep enriching themselves. But yeah, it's like people love to band about the idea of social justice and equality and diversity, except these are the same people who also lived all their lives in gated communities,
Oh, yeah.
well away from the minorities they claim to champion, but they would not be caught dead around for any real amount of time.
By
Or
the
even
way,
give,
yeah, go ahead.
they want to use the right terms, so they won't give these people jobs and opportunities to better themselves. Oh no, can't have that. Otherwise, you don't have a pet cost to make you feel like you're morally superior
Yeah.
to those other people.
By the way,
you have people like Bill Maher who was calling for
a recession,
shit,
yeah.
I hope we have a recession so that we can get Trump out of office. You fucking asshole. The state that you live in is in shambles.
Well, here's the thing.
Again,
These are people who can weather that. And you know,
exactly. See,
real quick, credit where credit's due. NMC was the one who actually sent this article to me. He wanted my
Mhm.
thoughts. And I told him I was potentially gonna steal this for the show.
I mean, that seems to be, again, from a European perspective, mind you, as an outsider.
That's why you're
It's like
here.
a lot, yeah, like, again, the more, at least in my country, especially in some of the European countries, which he brought up, like the adherence to the left leaning uh, ideologies, especially to do with communism and whatnot, did happen a lot within the blue collar strata, because you have to remember the Industrial Revolution and the horrible living and working conditions people were suffering under.
Yeah.
Their need to organize and adhere to something that, nobody else seemed to be on their side. They needed something to banner under.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
And
this is
but the
this.
same thing. But your country's completely different. So you're working class, as these ideas migrated and brought over by a select group of for lack of other word, intellectuals who thought they were going to spark off the same kind of social class struggle on the other side of the Atlantic. They did not take into account the notions of self-reliance, individualism, and worth ethic that you already possessed, and were
Also,
kind of rebuffed. And you guys, and then the whole thing gets like rebranded to do, okay, we can't make it about working class versus the rich, etc. So we're going, because the working class doesn't want fuck all to do with us, so let's make it about social issues, and about race, and in recent years about gender and about sexuality. And again, it's a very specific group of people who want to bandy about a cause, but they don't always live up to their own ideals in
yeah.
practice.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
we could talk about this the entire time, but we have another
Yeah.
one we want to get
Oh boy. Okay, so
Hold
to.
on.
Yeah,
Huh.
you forgot, didn't you?
uh, I I didn't forget.
Well, as
But
much as
I do want to say I
go
do want
ahead.
to say one more thing about California. It's you're extremely progressive on your social issues, but California, get your shit together. You need to focus on your economy and actually being able to
oh
provide
yeah.
jobs and living and like allowing people to live. It's also really easy to be homeless in California because they offer welfare to just about everybody. But that's not the issue. The other issue is that you have nice weather. So you should focus more on building jobs as opposed to whether or not somebody's using the right gender pronouns on somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you know,
Yeah.
this as much as this article, hearing someone actually put this in words makes me feel pretty good that there is a chance.
Yeah.
This next article, holy shit, it drives me to
This
drink.
Mm,
this next.
Yeah, you're
oh
reading
boy.
this
Bring out
one
your apple
because
pie. Bring
Oh.
out your apple pie. I got this one.
yeah.
Okay.
I just browsed through it. So 4th of July, aka America Day, was this last week. All right. So this article is from Fox. It's 3 reasons the American Revolution was a mistake. Happy 4th.
Now you see why we wanted you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not like antagonizing at all.
No.
No.
Oh.
All right. How's that apple
Do go
pie?
on. I want to see how this
You
goes.
know, it tastes better than I was expecting for store-bought moonshine.
Sweet. All right. So
It's apple cinnamony. It tastes not bad.
yeah. Sorry. I had to finish my beer. You'd probably be better off with just a cider and some Fireball shots.
Oh, Fireball is disgusting. It
Not
might
if you
work for this
not if you
though.
mix it with not if you mix it with a hard cider. It's the only way it's
Well,
tolerable.
do you need to mix it with a hard cider, or do you mix it with a regular cider and turn it hard?
No, you mix it with a hard cider so you get extra drunk.
Okay.
Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
No, this is why I'm asking. Because I know who I'm
mix it with a
talking
hard
to.
cider. I recommend either Red's Apple Ale or like Angry Orchard's Crisp Apple.
I may try that.
Yep. All right. So this July 4th, let's not mince words. American independence in 1776 was a monumental mistake. No, it wasn't. We should be mourning the fact that we left the United Kingdom, not cheering it. No.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Just a quick aside. Was Devil writing this article?
I think so. Actually, I think Devil and Dapper got together and wrote this article. Yes, sire. Fireball mixed with a hard cider. You don't take it straight. It's just to add the cinnamon so you have a nice spiced cider.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Fireball is shit otherwise.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Exactly.
This is why.
I was just saying it's the only way it's tolerable.
This is why, with my younger brother being home, I got him to actually try alcohols because he's never been much of a drinker. And I also bought Fireball because I want him to know how shit that stuff is.
Yeah.
Turns out he likes tequila.
Ooh, that's gonna get him in trouble. Anyways, of course, evaluating the wisdom of the American Revolution means dealing with counterfactuals. As any historian would tell you, this is a messy business. We obviously can't be entirely sure how America would have fared if it had stayed in the British Empire longer. Jesus Christ. Sorry, that just seemed like a weird sentence to me. Perhaps gaining independence a century or so later, along with Canada? No.
Go to hell.
a lot of this is going to be me after every paragraph saying no.
No.
Yeah, you're
but
not
I'm
alone.
reasonably
I need more alcohol for this one.
I can only imagine how triggering this has to be to to red-blooded American to read this article.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me put it to you this way. I'm probably one of the may not be the most red-blooded American, but my blood is pretty fucking red. I'm a veteran, and this is pissing me off. And we're not even through the first section.
I can only imagine.
We're not even through the preface.
I would call Rimshi a lot more patriotic than me because he actually signed up for the military. That's a lot of patriotism to do that. But I'm pretty goddamn patriotic.
I can only imagine. Please go on. Sorry.
All right, but in starting the sentence. But God. Okay, hold on. Can somebody clip this real quick? All the editors of all these news article sites, can you do your fucking job? Every fucking week I see so many goddamn typos and so many grammar faux pas all the fucking time. If you're doing an official article, please edit responsibly. God damn it.
Jables, you get what you pay for.
Let's clip that. I want someone to clip that, and we should try and get that trending on Twitter and Facebook and all those places.
Yeah, please. It's fair use. Take that clip. All right, but I'm reasonably confident in a world in which the revolution never happened would be better than the one we live in now for three main reasons. Slavery would have been abolished earlier. American Indians would have faced rampant persecution, but not the outright ethnic cleansing Andrew Jackson and other American leaders perpetrated. God damn. And America would have a parliamentary system of government that makes policy making easier and lessens the risk of democratic collapse. Okay, shut the fuck up right there.
All I hear is, I wish America was Canada.
We have a We have a 3-branch system. It's for checks and balances, and all of them can counteract others depending on how things go and where things are being first initiated.
By the way,
Parliamentary system, you can just throw shit out there. Vote, done. Get fucked. All right, so here's the first one. Abolition would have come faster without independence. The main reason the revolution was a mistake is that the British Empire, in all likelihood, would have abolished slavery earlier than the U.S. did, and with less bloodshed. Abolition in most of the British Empire occurred in 1834, following the passage of the Slavery Abolition Act that left out India. Still slavery. But slavery was banned there too in 1843. In England itself, slavery was illegal at least going back to 1772. That's decades earlier than the United States.
okay.
Fair.
I mean, I'm
That-
sorry, but didn't you guys succeed in 1776?
Yeah.
So they weren't too interested in abolishing slavery in the colonies either. Huh.
No, and the colonies were separate from the main nation.
Yeah, and even if you didn't rebel, probably, there's no guarantee that things would have changed.
I'm sure they kept it up in other colonies. Yeah. This alone is enough to make the case against the revolution. Decades less slavery is a massive humanitarian gain that most certainly dominates whatever gains come to the colonists from independence. Do people understand that the Civil War wasn't entirely over slavery? Like, that was part of it, but that wasn't, like, that was in the top 5 of main reasons for the Civil War, but that wasn't the main one.
Yeah, we could probably pull up a article saying that the five reasons that weren't the 5 reasons for the Civil War that weren't slavery. It was definitely top 5, if not top 3, if not number 1, but it wasn't the end-all be-all answer.
I'm being generous for the white supremacists in our chat.
Yeah. Because we have those.
Love you guys. The main benefit of the revolution to colonists was that it gave more political power to America's white male minority.
What?
Hold on, let me finish this thing until I get to the end. For the vast majority of the country, it's women, slaves, American Indians. The difference between the disenfranchisement in an independent America and disenfranchisement in a British-controlled colonial America was negligible. I'm not even going to... No, freedom. Freedom of speech. Right to bear arms. Right to not have your house occupied by military personnel of the highest government.
Yeah. The humanitarian gains that we had from having the Revolutionary War, Revolutionary War and War of 1812, were the facts that we were actually able to determine our own lives. We didn't have to answer to someone who didn't give a shit about us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's where we are now.
The Bill of Rights was written because these are rights that they wanted that weren't necessarily granted to them by the British government as colonials.
Yes, Anna.
That's why
Pinkos.
God fucking damn it. Alright. If anything, the latter would have been preferable, since at least women and minorities wouldn't be singled out for disenfranchisement.
What?
From the vantage point of most of the country, who cares if white men had to suffer through what everyone else did for a while longer? Especially if them doing so meant slaves gained decades of free life.
What the Never mind. Sorry.
Like Anna said, these are pinko commies.
Pretty
Well,
much.
I don't know if bars want to talk about slavery. Portugal was one of the last countries in the West to get rid of slavery. So.
We weren't one of the last, but we had a major hand in it. We were
Pretty
one of
sure
the
you were
last
the
country. We were
last.
one of the last countries to get rid of communism. No, actually, we weren't one of the last countries to get rid of slavery. No.
Yeah.
But we did it.
That
We
I
did
learned.
it.
That I learned from
Oh,
Andy Worski. Taught me something.
oh well. You know you can trust that guy. You can literally
Well,
hear my own
God damn
history
it,
now.
Anna, I love you. I want to punch this article writer with a bald eagle.
Yeah, right about
no,
it.
Anna, this is what you do even better. You become a falconer,
No.
but you choose a bald eagle instead.
The whole thing
Just
here
stick it
that's
on.
amazing is that apparently, like, white males were a huge social problem back then somehow,
Yeah.
and that if
Well,
they
no,
stayed, and then if people stayed under British rule, it would have been totally woke and diverse
yes,
somehow.
because what was it? 2 or 3% of the American population at the time owned slaves.
Mm,
Or maybe it was
exactly.
1%.
I don't know, like we all know, like under British rule, women and minorities had such a great time.
I'm gonna refer to Rimshu for this one. Should I say something that's gonna get me in trouble?
Well, how much trouble?
Ooh,
Type it
definitely
out.
gonna be called outright and a complete racist for this one.
Type it. Let me see. Because this could be worth it.
Yeah.
Sounds worth it right now.
Doesn't it?
There's like some back and forth in terms of logic in that article that is just absolutely mind-boggling. No, that's a fact.
That's a fact. There's.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say it.
All right.
Slaves were really expensive. Not everyone owned slaves.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
It's a fact. Now, does that mean that that owning slaves was good? No. Fuck no.
There is no moral judgment in that statement.
Yeah, no. In that this is a statement of fact. Looking back historically and understanding what life was like back then. Slaves existed. Okay. Slaves were fucking expensive. Not everyone owned them. Okay.
Yeah. That was about 1% of the pop. 1 to 3% of. I don't remember the numbers anymore. You used to argue this all the time. Whatever. God. All right. I'm going to continue with the article. Unless you guys
it would be fair
else.
to say absolutely less than 10% of the population owned slaves.
Well, it was less than that. I know that for a fact. Yeah. Okay. It was less than 5%.
There we go. Let's be generous and say close to 5%, only for the sake of argument.
Yeah. All right. I'll continue with the article now.
Mm-hmm.
It's true that had the U.S. stayed, Britain would have had much more to gain from the continuance of slavery than it did without America. It controlled a number of dependencies with slave economies, notably Jamaica and other islands in the West Indies, but nothing on the scale of the American South. Adding that into the mix would have made abolition significantly more costly. Yeah. That's actually a fact. Abolition was on its way out. It's just that slaves were the cheapest way to have labor to pick the cotton and everything like that, and then technology rose up.
Cotton
yeah, guess who supported the South during the Civil War? It was the British. Why? Because they needed cotton for their powdered wigs.
Oh, and sugarcane.
Oh yeah.
They needed sugarcane for all sorts of shit.
They didn't give a flying fuck about the slaves.
No.
Yep.
give a fuck about that money, money, money.
Mm-hmm.
But the South's political influence within the British Empire would have been vastly smaller than its influence in the early American Republic. For one thing, the South, like all of the British dependencies, lacked representation in Parliament. The southern states were colonies, and their interests were discounted by the British government accordingly. Freedom? Maybe. Right to vote? Whatever. But the South was also simply smaller as a chunk of the British Empire's economy at the time than it was as a portion of America's. The British Crown had less to lose from the abolition of slavery than white elites and an independent America. Okay.
I think I already disputed that.
Yeah, I think we all disputed that
Yeah,
already.
let's be honest. It's a smaller portion compared to the United States. Look at the size of the empires that each had. Britain had a massive one. They had they had the British Isles. They had plenty of what was down in the Caribbean. They had Canada. They had India, and if I
Lots of
remember right,
Africa.
yeah, lots of
They had
Africa. Compare that to 13 what most of the east coast of the US.
probably about half the east coast of the U.S.
Yeah, and California, which was union but
But
not union.
according to this article, the revolutionaries understood this. Indeed, a desire to preserve slavery helped fuel Southern support for the war in 1775. After the war had begun in Massachusetts, the Earl of Dunmore and the Governor of Virginia offered the slaves of rebels freedom if they came and fought for the British, because Eric Hirschthal, PhD student in history at Columbia, notes that the proclamation united the white Virginians behind the rebel effort. He quotes Philip Fithian, who was traveling through Virginia when the proclamation was made, saying, "The inhabitants of this colony are deeply alarmed at this infernal scheme. It seems to quicken all in revolution, to overpower him at any risk."
God damn.
Anger at Dunmore's emancipation ran so deep that Thomas Jefferson included it as a grievance in a draft of the Declaration of Independence. That's right, the Declaration of Independence could have included their conscripting our slaves as a reason for independence. Sure. Thomas Jefferson had over 600 slaves. He had sex with a lot of them. That's not good. However, he still did do good things.
In a draft, it could have included.
Yes.
It didn't because it's not important to him.
Yes. Thomas Jefferson was a racist asshole that impregnated a bunch of slaves. But Thomas Jefferson also did a bunch of good things. You know, there's this thing you can do where you can say, I don't like this thing that person did, but he did still do these good things. And therefore, I condemn these things. It's like the old Steve thing. Down with the bad, up with the good.
Good.
Batman's pet goldfish. They call them South. They call them the South because calling them Democrats makes them look bad.
The Democratic Party used to be the party of the KKK. Just saying.
uh-huh.
Anyways, unless you have something to add, Mark.
No, this goes very deeply and more into American history and whatnot. But I would say that there's this annoying tendency to judge the past with the eyes of the present. You have to realize that.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas ethics may be connected to the human condition and more or less immutable, morality does change according to where you were, when you were born, and how you were raised, and how the world around you is. It's very convenient to sit here with the perspective of the 21st century and look at people who did not have the social advances that we did and judge them for that. And go, oh, how could they be so horrible and this and that? But again, may not. I mean, even by I mean, yeah, sure, he was definitely not like an amazing, the most altruistic human beings. But how worse off was Thomas Jefferson when compared to his peers? Would have been a much more accurate metric of
Yeah.
the moral fiber of the man. Because we don't know if any of us was born back then, and
Yeah.
raised that way, how we would have reacted.
Well, he owned a massive plantation, so
I mean, yeah, it was inherited to him, which means he grew up and he was raised in that set of circumstances. It was all he knew,
yeah.
and it would have taken a lot more effort, to denounce that and reject that
Oh
to move
god.
on.
Anna had a
Yes, Sophie.
hearts. Who wrote this article? An 8th grader writing a report that got a fucking C?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah.
I don't want to scroll up and lose my place.
I mean, it sounds more like someone who went, "Why isn't America Canada?"
Because fuck
All
Canada.
right.
As
So
a
should I,
patriot, fuck Canada.
keep in mind, guys. This is reason number one that we're still on.
Mm.
It's not even over yet.
Yeah, we might want to
Yeah.
speed it up a bit because we got not much time left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, on with the cringe.
For white slaveholders in the South, Simon Shalon writes in Rough Crossings, his history of black loyalism during the Revolution War was a revolution, first and foremost, mobilized to protect slavery. Probably not. Slaves also understood that their odds of liberation were better under British rule than independence. Over the course of the war, about 100,000 African slaves escaped, died, or were killed, and tens of thousands enlisted in the British Army, far more than joined the rebels. Black Americans' quest for liberty was mostly tied to fighting for the British, the side in the war for the independence that offered them freedom. Yeah, you offer somebody freedom. They're also the largest army and navy in the entire fucking world. You're gonna side with them. Sure.
Because you think they're gonna win.
Yeah. Historian Gary Nash writes in The Forgotten Fifth, his history of the African Americans, the Revolution at the end of the war. Thousands who helped the British were evacuated to freedom in Nova Scotia, Jamaica, and England. Good. Cool. This is not to say the British were motivated by a desire to help slaves. Of course they would. But American slaves chose a side in the Revolution, the side of the Crown. They were no fools. They knew that independence meant more power for the plantation class that had enslaved them, and that the British victory offered far more greater prospects for freedom. I think they sided with the British because everybody thought the British was going to win.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so we finally finished reason number one
Wow.
out of
you,
three.
You might want to pick two up a bit.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like roughly the same thing.
Over and over.
No, the independence was bad for Native Americans, which is utter shit.
Yeah. We were pretty bad with Native Americans.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it was good for them. I'm just saying that independence had probably had very little to no play in that.
No, I think it was more conquering a land sort of thing that had a big play in that. Starting with the proclamation of 1763, the British colonial government placed firm limits on westward settlement in the United States. It wasn't motivated by an altruistic desire to keep American Indians from being subjugated or anything. It just wanted to avoid border conflict. Yeah.
Until they're ready to advance.
A massive land. If people argue with it's olden times, you're gonna. It's like, hey, I like this piece of land. It's got good dirt. I could start a farm here. No, that's our land. Fuck you. Pow pow. That's
Yeah. No, this was not them being altruistic or trying to avoid border conflicts. This was them trying to consolidate and strengthen before they moved forward.
yeah. But all the same, the policy enraged American settlers who were appalled that the British would soon side with Indians over white men. Oh.
Oh no!
I think you're calling the British racist now? Damn, you covered it. All right. Oh wait, no, never mind. They sided with the Indians. Actually, it's Native Americans. Thank you, author of this. The British government remained willing to conceive of Native Americans as subjects of the crown, similar to colonists. Yeah, if they converted to your religion and bowed down to the crown, but they had their own society.
Which would
God.
mean giving up everything they were, basically. Just, give up everything you believe in, give up your own social structures, and then, yeah, you'll be just like us. Yeah, that's very...
Yeah, Mecca, Andrew Jackson was worse for Native Americans in the Revolution. However, Andrew Jackson was also a fucking badass. Somebody tried to kill him and he beat the shit out of him with his cane. He had to have his aides pull him off, like the equivalent to what the Secret Service is nowadays. His aides pulled him off of the guy because he was going to kill him for trying to kill him. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Ethan Schmidt writes in Native Americans in the American Revolution. American colonists refuse. Oh, there's an ellipses there. That means they edited something out. Refused to see Indians as fellow subjects. Instead, they viewed them as obstacles in the way of their dreams of land ownership and trading in wealth. Yeah. This view is reflected in the Declaration of Independence, which attacks King George III for backing merciless Indian savages. I remember that.
That's fine.
Oh, okay. American independence made the proclamation void here. It's not void in Canada. Indeed, the 1763 proclamation is viewed as a fundamental document providing rights to self-government to First Nation tribes. It's mentioned explicitly in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canada's Bill of Rights, which protects any rights or freedoms that have been recognized by the Royal Proclamation of October 7, 1763, for all Aboriginal people. Historian Colin Calloway writes, "The Scratch of a Pen, 1763, and the Transformation of North America, that the proclamation still forms the basis for dealings between Canada's government and Canada's First Nations."
Okay, I got something to say here. No shit, that's recognized in the Canadian Bill of Rights. Canada is still subject to the Crown.
I don't think they are anymore.
No, they still are. Technically, they're subject to the Crown.
Oh, fuck Canada then.
Canada never won its true independence. It became its own nation. It's more like Scotland or Ireland. They're subject to the Crown, but they're their own nation technically. Well, that's not... Scotland's not a fair example, but it's like the missing link between Scotland and the United States.
Goddamn. See, look at them being all non-PC in here. They're calling them Indians and stuff. It's rude.
God damn.
And unsurprisingly, Canada didn't see Native American wars and removals as large and sweeping as occurred in the U.S. They still committed horrible, indefensible crimes. Canada under British... I guess that's probably a link. Canada under British rule and after brutally mistreated Aboriginal people. Not least, though, government-inflicted famines and state's horrific seizure of children from their families so they could attend residential schools. But the country didn't experience a westward expansion as violent as deadly as that pursued by the U.S. government and settlers. Absent the revolution, Britain probably would have moved into Indian lands, but fewer people would have died. There's no fucking possible way to know that, for one thing.
No possible way. And let's be honest.
Another thing. Canada's move westward is fucking Arctic. And so the U.S.'s move westward has a lot more temperate climate. So wars are going to break out. People are going to defend their shit.
More importantly, it says that Canada was brutal and brutally mistreated Aboriginal people. So it brutally mistreated them. Meanwhile, the United States just killed them.
Yeah, well, we brutally mistreated them as well.
Yeah.
And we killed them. But there's that whole, like, I don't know if you've seen... I don't know if you've seen, like, the livable areas of the U.S. as opposed to the livable areas of Canada.
Yeah, it's pretty much right on our border. A lot more area to be
brutal and a lot more area for people to actually live.
Give me a moment, guys. Yeah. Be right back.
Yep.
Should I wait to keep reading? Or should I just
go? Just keep going, because we don't have a lot of time left.
Oh, yeah. No, this is to minimize the extent of British Canadian crimes against the natives. It's a hard case to make because even though I do think Canada's treatment of the natives was better than the United States, it was still terrible. The Canadian essayist Jeet here tells me, Jesus Christ, in an email, here has also written a great case against American independence. On the plus side, for Canada, there was no outright genocides like the Trail of Tears, aside from the Okay. There were no outright genocides like the Trail of Tears, aside from the Beothuks of Newfoundland. So there was a genocide like the Trail of Tears. Okay. The population statistics are telling 1.4 million people of Aboriginal descent in Canada, as against 5.2 million in the U.S. Once again, that's an area thing, more people, more livable area. Independence also enabled acquisition of territory in the West through the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican-American War. I'm just getting a history lessons from a very skewed point of view. Should I just skip on to the third point?
Yeah, we may as well.
Yeah, okay. America would have a better system of government if we'd stuck with Britain. It's my favorite point.
Oh god, I hope Bar gets back.
I'm back, so sorry guys.
Not a problem, you just got back right in time. This is the fun one.
Yeah, we're on to the third reason why the American Revolution should never happened. And that is, America would have a better system of government if we'd stuck with Britain.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think earlier abolition alone is enough to make the case against the revolution. And it combined with once again, editors, do your fucking job. And it combined with less horrible treatment of American Indians, Native Americans, is more than enough. But it's worth taking a second praise, a less important but still significant consequence of the U.S. sticking with Britain. We would have, in all likelihood, become a parliamentary democracy rather than a presidential one. We are a republic, for one thing.
Yeah, we're a republic. We're a democratic republic, not a presidential democracy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Does this person fucking realize that at any point the Queen can be like, nope, Parliament, you are done. You can all vacate. I am in charge again. And nothing can be done about it? Except violent revolution?
It's not necessarily a parliamentary democracy. It's also a parliamentary monarchy.
Yeah. It's a monarchy, not a democracy.
I mean, not only that, like, historically, United States, I mean, as much as the France started the First Republic, after the the subsequent fall of the Republic and the instauration of an empire under Napoleon and
I,
whatnot, the
I
United
thought
States
Greece
were
had the
the
first
only
republic.
what? Well,
I
the
thought Greece
first
had the
mod,
first republic.
yeah, but in terms of the modern era, France
Okay.
reinstalling that idea.
All right.
And then it fell, and for the longest time, the only thing preserving the idea of a democratic republic was the United States.
Holy shit. Let's keep going on this article. I just read a
Yeah, but go on.
line.
Yeah, but
Holy
yeah,
fuck.
sorry for the tangent. But yeah, the person writing this has no sense of the historical ramifications of the existence of the
Yeah.
United States as is.
And
Yeah.
parliamentary democracies are a lot better than presidential ones. They're significantly less likely to collapse into dictatorship because they don't lead to irresolvable conflicts between, say, the president and the legislature. They lead to much less gridlock. We have three fucking branches. We have checks and balances. Shut the fuck up. You don't know how our government works.
Okay, let's just push through this and we'll just talk about it once it's done.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, in the U.S., activists wanting to put a price on carbon emissions spent years trying to put together a coalition to make it happen, mobilizing sympathetic businesses and philanthropists and attempting to make bipartisan coalition. They still failed to pass cap and trade. After millions of dollars and man hours in the UK, the Conservative government decided they wanted a carbon tax. So there was a carbon tax, just like that, passing big necessary legislation. In the case, legislation that's literally necessary to serve the planet, is a whole lot easier with parliaments than with presidential systems. This is no trivial matter. Efficient passage of legislation has huge humanitarian consequences and makes measures of planetary importance, like carbon taxes, easier to get through. They still face political pushback, of course. Australia's tax got repealed after all, but they can be enacted in the first place, which is far harder in the US system. And the efficiency of the parliamentary systems enables larger social welfare programs that reduce inequality and improve life for poor citizens. I want a cigarette so bad right now. This is bad. Oh my god. Government spending in parliamentary countries is about 5% GDP higher after controlling for other factors than in presidential countries. If you believe in redistribution, that's good news. Hold on. Government spending in parliamentary countries is about 5% of GDP higher after controlling for other factors than in presidential countries. If you believe in redistribution, that's very good indeed.
Just keep going. That's utter shit and we all know it.
What are they spending that extra 5% on? That's a fucking factor. Oh my god. The Westminster system of parliamentary democracy also benefits from weaker upper houses. The U.S. is saddled with a Senate that gives Wyoming the same power as California, which has more than 66 times as many people. That's because one. Worse, the Senate is equal in power to the lower, more representative house. Most countries following the British system have upper houses. Only New Zealand was wise enough to abolish it, but they're far, far weaker than their lower houses. The Canadian Senate and the House of Lords affect legislation only in rare cases. At most, they can hold things up a bit or force minor tweaks. They aren't capable of obstruction anywhere near the level of the U.S. Senate. It's called checks and balances. Finally, we'd likely be a monarchy under the rule of Elizabeth II, and constitutional monarchy is the best system of government known to man. This article's killing me.
Keep going.
Why?
I'm so glad I didn't read this one.
You're... Generally speaking, in a parliamentary system, you need a head of state who is not the prime minister to serve as a disinterested arbiter. Um, when there are disputes on how to form a government, say if the largest party should be allowed to form a minority government or if smaller parties should be allowed to form a coalition, to name a recent example from Canada, the head of state is usually a figurehead president elected by the parliament in Germany, Italy, or the people, Ireland, Finland, for a better monarch, and monarchs are better.
Do you want me to finish
How
up?
much more of this?
Do
No,
you want...
I got it. I can make this last leg of it. Monarchs are more effective than presidents precisely because they lack any semblance of legitimacy. Oh God, it would be offensive for Queen Elizabeth or representatives in Canada, New Zealand, etc., to meddle in domestic policies. Indeed, yeah, it would be rude. What the fuck? Indeed, when the Governor General of Australia did so in 1975, it set off a constitutional crisis. It made it clear that such behavior would not be tolerated. It's like a little bit of a revolution. God. Like a little bit of a revolution when you have people rebelling against you when you're putting laws
Okay,
on
I'm
them
gonna
so
scroll
far
down.
away.
For everyone that knows, I'm gonna scroll down and see how much more there actually is. Okay, this is the end.
There's not much more. There's not much more. Okay. But figurehead presidents have some degree of democratic legitimacy and are typically former politicians. Go Trump. That enables a greater rate of shenanigans. Like when Italian President Giorgio Napolitano schemed successfully to remove Silvio, whatever the fuck, as prime minister, due at least in part to German Chancellor Angela Merkel's entreaties to do so. Napolitano is the rule rather than the exception. Oxford political scientists Petra Schleider and Edward Morgan Jones have found that presidents, whether elected indirectly by parliament or directly by the people, are likelier to allow governments to change without new elections than monarchs are. In other words, they're likelier to change the government without any democratic input at all. Monarchy is perhaps paradoxically, if you have a fucking Democrat, paradoxically, it's a more democratic option. No, because monarchs aren't voted in, you dumb fucks. Oh my god. Monarchs aren't voted in. The reason why the structure of the government doesn't change when you have a fucking monarch is because the monarch stays in there and then their family stays in and their family stays in and their family stays in and just keeps the same thing over and over and over again. God fucking damn it, that's a fucking hard article to fucking read. Shit, fuck, ass, titty, fucking ass, fuck, cuck, cock, cunt. Jesus. Alright, I'm done. For now.
You doing okay?
No. I had to read that.
Well, I'm gonna take the only good part of this article out, and I'm gonna put it on screen as soon as I get it cropped properly. All right.
I need a cigarette.
There we go. The only good part.
What's the only good part?
Take a look.
Is it in the book?
It's no, it's take a look at the stream.
No, I just pop out the chat. Don't actually watch the stream.
Oh, that's right. You don't watch the stream because you're a heathen. It's the picture that
Well,
George
it's
Washington
on
crossing
the
the
stream.
Delaware. It's George Washington crossing the Delaware. It's the only part worth having on screen. Because the rest of this is such shit. I wouldn't... I wouldn't even wipe my ass with this article. It's so full of half-assed thought... The thought process to this is so half-assed and ill-conceived. It's horrendous. It's a way... the internet can hold so much space, and this is a waste of it somehow.
Yeah.
This is a waste of data on the internet.
Oh, yeah, I totally fucking agree. They're better because they don't change so often. That's like... okay, So let's compare this to a Christian that believes in the Bible and an atheist that just follows science. Well, an argument that I've heard a lot is that, well, the Bible is true because it never changes, and science is false because they're constantly changing all the time. Do you see where the problems are there?
Yep.
New
I see
facts,
them.
new situations, new societal differences necessitate change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bart. Is Bart even still here?
I'm sorry, dude. I'm just stunned.
Are
I
you
don't
dead
even
yet?
know. I mean, I have no words. Just no words at all. That was just, uh, we could be all night going over how all of that is just bullshit.
Oh, we skipped a shit ton of that article too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, we wanted to go over this very briefly. If you guys remember that article we went over a while ago, where dude got shot back when Waffle was the other guest. Um, he got shot in the head on Facebook Live because the dumb cunt picked up the firearm and pointed it at him and pulled the trigger, and oh no, it went off into his head.
Yeah.
We have an update on that. After a little bit of digging, we found out that he's doing a lot better. He's actually relearning how to write right now.
Yeah, he's almost able to sit up on his own. He's kind of talking. Yeah. That was a weird transition into the good news.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
wanted to get away from that article
No.
as fast as fucking possible.
I don't blame you.
By the way, if you guys want to read through that article yourself and you want to rant and rave about it, maybe like tomorrow in the voice chat, feel free to do so.
Oh yeah. Please do. We could rant and rave about it. I also wouldn't mind talking about that California article.
Yeah, that kind of. I forgot about all the other articles that we covered. I don't even know what we covered today after that one.
VA weed, Trump ecstasy, alien fireflies,
I just went for
SAS hero
whole,
dog, California
this
poverty,
whole
and
show went from mega to MAGA real fucking quick. Yeah, Mecca. He's still struggling with all their shit, but hey, his kids have his dad back.
yeah,
Ish.
he's not gone. That's the important thing. He was just delayed. If we actually had a large enough audience, we would definitely be doing more to push traffic to this guy. But with what we have, people, let's try and make him happy. Well, not happy. Let's try and show him support.
I'll tell you what, though. I saw some pictures of him on the Facebook that's updating people on his status. I'll tell you what. Cohen is a hell of a weight loss plan.
Wow.
Was that tasteless?
You could say that, but but at the same time, you know what? He's alive, and that's what's important, and he's doing well. Well, considering.
Oh, yeah, especially consider. Yeah, exactly. Versus the alternative. I'd say so.
I hope that bitch gets all the time in jail.
Oh yeah. By the way, the girl that shot him, she is being charged with aggravated assault with serious, near lethal injury. That's another update.
Yeah, she can go to hell. This guy, I'm glad he's here for his kids. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Batman's pet goldfish. Yeah. I don't want him to go through that article either. Maybe attempted murder. Y2K and W.
Oh, well,
I'd have to.
I would like to end it on the good that is this man having a solid
Yes.
recovery plan.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's end it on something good.
Yes.
After that abomination,
you
let's
can-
end it on something good.
I will add the link to his Facebook page so you can keep track of his recovery. On that, I'll add that link later. It'll be on the stream sometime tomorrow. It'll be in the description sometime tomorrow. Where they also have a GoFundMe to help with physical therapy costs and whatnot like that.
Seems
Anything
worth
you
it
want
to
show,
me.
Bar, before we go?
It's as usual. It was a pleasure for you guys to have me on.
You know, right up until that last article.
Yeah, kind of. Always a pleasure for you guys to have me here. And again, we end up touching the most unlikely of subjects sometimes, which is proof that truth is always stranger than fiction.
Yeah, and Jeff, get with Waffle if you can. Just a reminder at the end of this, get with Waffle if you can about the new bot, and yeah. Let's try and get this to a larger audience since you guys have that.
Yes. Yes.
Specifically, do it for Devin, which is dude's name.
Yes. And with that, we have been your Lesser Saints Discord. We're every Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time without fail. We hope we didn't depress you guys too much or give you guys too much brain damage. I want to shotgun some beers right now.
I'm gonna go outside
thank you,
and
Bar,
smoke.
for being on here. Thank you,
It was my pleasure as usual.
Thank you, Rimsky, for doing production. And be sure to tune into the YouTube Saints on their channel. Link in the description. They're starting in about like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be about a 15-minute till their start time. So get a good seat, right, as close as you can to the stage. Get there early.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.